Well, guys, in today's training, I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 steps that every entrepreneur must take in order to go from where they are, maybe struggle bussing, maybe like, man, how come this is so hard? How come I can't get ahead, right? To go from there to I am financially free, I have time freedom, I'm living the life of my dreams, and I'm able to give my family the life that they desire and they deserve. If you just literally take action on these 3 things, everything can change for you. Let's just jump right on into it, guys. Okay, so what's the first thing? What's the first thing you need to have? Why is this messed up here? There we go. What's the first thing you need to do? Number one, you need to discover your courage, man. If you're taking notes, write this down. The most needed, yet one of the most lacking virtues when it comes to entrepreneurship is the virtue of courage, okay? Like, I'm telling you guys and gals this right now. It will take some courage. I was talking with a friend recently, and I was, if I could just be vulnerable with you, I was a little bit frustrated and discouraged by like, man, like I know that I've got $100 million a year in me, and I'm not there yet, and I'm just so frustrated. And my friend who I'm talking to is like, Rick, what the heck are you talking about? Like, yes, it's awesome that you like want to pursue that and you're pushing for that, and I do believe that you have that in you, but think about what you're doing. Like the numbers you're already doing, the people you're already serving, like the revenue you're already generating, it's mind-blowing. And I was like, it's okay, it could be better. And they're like, no, think about this. And they started listing off all of these different like online internet marketers, like this person says like, yo, they're doing this much a month, or this person said they got this many students. Bro, you're blowing all of them out of the water, and these are like huge like internet marketer people, and you're doing way better than them. And I was like, I guess that's all right. Maybe, I don't know. And they're like, how are you doing this? And without skipping a beat, I just said, I believe it's because I have courage. Right? You need some courage, man. In fact, I need at least 10 people in the comments. Drop this word, courage. Okay? You need to discover your courage. And in fact, I'm going to read a story to you out of the book of Numbers. Okay? This story is so powerful, guys. Numbers chapter 13. Okay, let me pull it up here. Numbers chapter 13, there is a fantastic story in the Bible where Moses he gets together these 12 spies, okay? And he is like, guys, we are going to go spy out the promised land. God has promised us this land. God said he wants to give us the goodness of this land, but let's go spy it out, right? Let's go see what it's all about before we just dive in. And so Moses, in his leadership, he gathers together these 12 leaders, and he's like, yo, you guys are going to go spy out the land for 40 days, okay? And then the Bible says that they go into the land, and for 40 days, they're like kind of just scouting out the land. They're kind of just sneaking around, making sure none of the enemies see them, right? They're checking out, does it have milk? Does it have honey? How big are the enemies? How fortified are the cities, right? And this is so interesting. So if you're taking notes, write this down. God divinely connects your promised land to giants. Okay? It's not this like, it's either the promised land or it's either giants, which one? No. It's always both and. If you have the desire to level up in your business, in your entrepreneurial journey, then you need to understand this. Every level, there's an old school church saying that said, new levels, new devils. And the punchline is this. If you want to level up to the next place of opportunity, if you're ready to level up to the next place of income, if you're ready to level up to the next place of finances in your business development, etc., there will be giants. There will be fortified cities, but the punchline is God designed it that way. Like God literally connected your next level of destiny to your next giant. Uh-oh. Rick, I didn't want this kind of training today. Well, guess what? I need to keep it 100 with y'all because this is how God works. God connected your next level of promise to fortified cities. Okay, and how do I know this to be true? Because check this story out, Numbers chapter 13. So the spies go in there, and I just want to start here. This is so interesting, okay? Verse 23, 24, 25, it basically says, the spies are in the land, and they see like the fruit of the land is so gigantic, it takes 2 dudes just to carry some grapes out on their shoulders, okay? Like they're gigantic, gigantic grapes. Like think about it, if I was gonna like carry a bushel of grapes, like one guy, one gal could hold it in their hands like this, or like put it in a bag. Not these grapes, baby. These grapes are so gigantic, it takes 2 people to carry them out on their shoulders. Like, how many of y'all know that you've got some massive fruit in your promised land, right? You got some massive fruit in your promised land, but it is divinely connected to your giants and to your fortified cities. Check this out. Okay, so after they go into the land, they spy it out for 40 days. Okay, then they come back. Verse 26, Numbers 13, verse 26, it says, 26 says this. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community. Okay, there they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. Okay, now how many of y'all get excited when you're like, oh my gosh, look at the potential of making money online. Look at the potential of building my business. Look at the potential of I could literally fire my boss, quit my job, retire my spouse, give my family the life that they deserve and they desire. This would be amazing. You've seen the fruit of the land, okay? You understand how good it can be, but watch this next part. They gave to Moses this account, okay? So like, yo guys, check out this crazy fruit. It's gigantic. The land, oh my gosh, it was awesome. But then they say this, we went into the land which you sent us, Moses, and it does flow with milk and honey. And by the way, here is the fruit. So they're like, yo, it's everything that we thought it was. But then watch this. But the people in the next breath, they say it like this, but the people who live in the land are powerful, and the cities are fortified. They're very large, and there were giants in the land, right? And so literally in one breath, they're like, yeah, the land was good. It was flowing with milk and honey. Here's the gigantic fruit. But guess what? The land had giants, and it was so scary, and there were huge fortified cities. Like, what is going on here, right? And so while these, by the way, this was 10 of the 12 spies, okay? While these 10 spies are giving this terrible report of like, yeah, the land's good, but man, it's so hard. There's so many giants. There's so many fortified cities. Oh, I don't know. While they're giving this negative report, verse 30 says this, then Caleb silenced the people. By the way, Caleb at this time, guys, was 80 years old. Okay, don't for a second hit me with any of your limiting beliefs. I'm too young, I'm too old. Caleb was 80 years old, ready to take his next mountain, ready to slay his next giant, ready to conquer his next fortified city. Okay, so 80 years old, Caleb says this. He silenced everybody and he says, listen, that's the Pino version. Listen, he says, we should go up and take possession of the land. We can certainly do it, right? And then so Caleb goes on, and I'm going to give you just the nutshell version for the sake of time here. So Numbers 13, 10 of them, they're like, the land was good, but it was so scary. And the giants were so big in the cities. And then Caleb, as an 80-year-old man, says, listen, guys, we can do it. We should go take it right now because, and this was the reasoning Caleb gave, because God promised us the land. Because God said we could. And it was so interesting because, again, just for the sake of time, I'm going to preface and jump ahead here a little bit. The interesting part about this story is this, okay? If you're taking notes, write this down. All 12 of these spies had the same experience, but watch this.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the training. I wanted to take a few moments real quick to invite you to join me for my upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge, okay? This is a 5-day live virtual event where I invite entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs just like you to come spend 5 days with me and get live training on the 5 moves that anyone can take in order to scale and skyrocket their business and their revenue. Now, the best way to join is as a VIP because VIPs get to spend an extra hour with me every single day and ask your questions live. My most successful students have all been VIPs. That's the best way to join. Listen, you don't want to miss the upcoming Create and Sell Digital Products 5-day challenge. It's completely live. It's coming up right around the corner. Click the link down below in the description. Grab your ticket today. Now back to the training.
Okay, the spies all had same experience, but this is the key right here. Different perspectives. Uh-oh. How many of y'all know that this opportunity to become an entrepreneur, to build your business, to make money online, to finally achieve time freedom, financial freedom, to give your family the life that they desire and they deserve, it is possible for every single person in this training right now. It is possible, but here's what I want to submit to you, okay? Even though it's possible for everybody, you need to make sure that you have got the right perspective. Because here's the punchline, okay? You want to discover your courage. You need to make sure you're not focusing on the problem and you start focusing on the promise. Think about that. If you are busy giving your attention to how hard it's going to be, and oh man, I'm too old to figure this thing out. I'm too young to figure this thing out. I'm not very techie. What if it doesn't work? What if people don't like me? What if I can't figure this out? Oh, this is so hard. Oh, I have to shoot these videos. Oh, I have to post this thing. Oh, if you're focusing on all the problems, then guess what happens? Just like in Numbers chapter 13, again, for the sake of time, I'm paraphrasing, but they basically, the 10 spies who are giving the bad report, they literally end their report by saying this: we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes. What? They literally were like, the giants were so big and the cities were so fortified, we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes. They literally saw themselves as grasshoppers, and guess what? Figuratively, they became grasshoppers. They got smashed by the enemy. Those 10 spies literally got smashed by the enemy because they saw themselves, I can't do it. It's too hard. The giants are too big. The cities are too fortified. We can never do it. They were focused on the problems. But Caleb, who again was 80 years old, and Joshua, they said, no. God said we can do this. And yes, and then again, for the sake of time, I'm paraphrasing, but go back and read it yourself. Caleb and Joshua literally said it like this: yes, there's giants in the land, but we're going to slay so many giants that it will literally be equivalent to eating our daily bread. Like Caleb's and Joshua's perspective, there it is again, their perspective was this: we are not focused on the problems, we are focused on the promise. And because God said that we can do this, we can do it. In fact, I need at least 10 people in the comments right now. Drop these words: I can do it. Okay, so the 10 spies who have the false and the scared, the fearful belief of it's too hard because their perspective is focused on the wrong thing, they lose their courage because they're only focused on the trouble. But Caleb and Joshua, whose perspective is on the promise, and their perspective is on what did God say, they see themselves as giant slayers. And guess what, y'all? Because they saw themselves as giant slayers, they became giant slayers. Caleb and Joshua got to go into the promised land, and they literally slayed giants. The other 10 who were like, they're too big, they're too scary, they got smashed by the enemy. They didn't ever get to fully enjoy and fully taste the land that was flowing with milk and honey and gigantic fruit because their perspective was off. If you want to learn how to discover your courage, then one thing you need to do is you need to change your perspective. I say it like this. If you're taking notes, write this down. I say it like this: if you can see the invisible, then you can do the impossible. Uh-oh. If you can see the invisible, then you can do the impossible. What does that mean? It means if you can see beyond what you can only see in the natural, right? Like, yes, everything in the natural seems impossible, right? Like in the natural, it's like, well, there's no way a donkey could talk. That's impossible. There's no way that somebody could walk on water. That's impossible. There's no way I could build my business. It's impossible. Of course, if you look at it just through the natural eyes, but if you begin to get the correct perspective on not just the problem, but on the promise, everything begins to change, because now your perspective isn't on how hard is it going to be. Like, oh, could you imagine how hard it would be from like a physics standpoint to try to walk on water? Like, that's so hard. Of course it is. But guess what? When God said that you can walk on water, you can walk on water. And it was only when Peter began to focus on the wind, and only when he began to focus on the waves is when he began to sink. Now, what am I saying? I am not saying go out and try to walk on water right now. What I am saying is you should go out and try to, quote unquote, walk on the waters of, I can build this business. I can have the courage that it takes in order for me to not give up when everybody else gives up. Guys, I'm telling you this right now. 99% of the human population gives up the second anything gets a little bit tough. So how many of you guys and gals want to be part of the 1%? If that's you, drop it in the comments. Say, that's me, that's me, that's me. If you have the desire to become part of that 1%, then all you got to do is just not give up whenever things get a little bit hard. Like, legit. It's literally that. It's literally just, okay, it's getting a little hard, and 99% of people, they lose their courage because they put their perspective on, oh, this is so hard. Oh, I knew it wasn't going to work. Oh, I messed it up. Oh, I'm so discouraged. Yes, exactly. And that's how come you're not successful, and the people who are successful, we are successful because we don't give up when it gets hard. We keep our perspective on the promise, not on the problem. Guys, you've got to learn how to discover your courage, because it's going to take some grit, okay? How many of y'all got grit? I want to see them in the comments. Say, that's me, that's me. If you got some grit, if you're like, you know what, this is going to work or it's going to work, which one, right? If you have determined in your heart, I don't want to talk to any of y'all who are going to try. Okay? Don't talk to me if you're like, well, I'll try. No. If you're trying, then you've already given yourself an option B, an option C, an option D. I don't want to hear if you're going to try. I want to hear if you're going to do, right? I want to hear if you actually decided in your heart, I am going to figure this thing out, right? Like, guys, I'm telling you, like, maybe you're watching the training here. Maybe you've heard like, well, Rick's built these businesses, and him and his wife, they've built all this amazing, successful stuff. Just as many businesses that I have built, like that are successful, 10 times more I've started that were unsuccessful, right? Like I literally launched 3 or 4 or 5 e-commerce products that lost me tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, like close to 100, I lost $90,000 launching my first few e-commerce products back in the day because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Right? And I hadn't had a mentor yet in that realm and that sphere of business. I was just trying to figure it out. I lost all this money. And guess what most people do? Like, oh, this is for the birds. And like, I lost almost $100,000. I give up. Guess what I did? I doubled down. I said, man, I'm going to find some money somewhere else. I'm going to hire a mentor. I'm going to find a mentor. I'm going to get their system. I'm going to follow their system step by step by step. I did. And then my wife and I went on to build a pretty successful e-commerce brand. Right? And the same thing for real estate, and the same thing for marketing agency, and the same thing for this, same thing for that. Like, literally, guys, it's going to take grit. And if you don't discover your courage right now, it's probably not going to happen for you. And I don't want that for you. So instead of focusing on the problem, start focusing on the promise. Yes, there are giants in the land. Yes, there are fortified cities in the land. But guess what? God said, every place that your foot treads, he will give to you. But guess what? If your foot don't tread, he's not going to give it to you. So you got to get your feet in there, man. You got to get your feet on the ground and start treading so that you can actually access the promise and not just be like, oh, this has got really hard. And marketing, oh, this is sales, business, running a team, building a digital product. This is so difficult. Stop focusing on how hard it's going to be. Stop focusing on how hard it's going to be. Start focusing on what did God say. When you do this, guys, you are going to unlock and discover your courage, okay? If you're ready for number 2, drop a 2 in the comments. If you're ready for number 2, drop a 2. Are you getting fired up? Is anybody getting fired up? If you're getting fired up, let me know in the comments. Say, I'm getting fired up, man. I need to get my courage together. I need to get my courage right. I can do this. I'm going to slay some giants. Drop a 2 in the comments and let's go to number 2, okay? So number 1, you got to discover your courage. Number 2, this one's huge. You've got to develop your mindsets. Mindsets? I've only heard mindset. No. You have mindsets with an S. Did you know that every single one of us, we have 2 minds, okay? We have, in fact, let me draw it here on the board, okay? We have, this is you and me, okay? Look, we're so happy, woohoo, right? And we have 2 minds, okay? We have a conscious mind, and we have a subconscious mind. You guys know this, okay? Now, when I say you have got to develop your mindsets, here's what you need to do, okay? If you're taking notes, you can write this down. So the conscious mind is responsible for your consciousness, right? It's responsible for your realized reality. But the subconscious mind, in fact, I should just write these on the board here, okay? The conscious mind, this is your realized reality, okay? The conscious mind is responsible for what you say, right? The subconscious mind is responsible for your unrealized reality. What is the unrealized reality? This is your programming. Every single one of us has a certain programming, okay? And how many of y'all know that if you're running on a certain software or a certain programming, the programming is just going to do what it does? And that leads me to the next part here. The subconscious mind, not only is it responsible for your unrealized reality, which is your programming, your subconscious mind is responsible for your actions. All right, so where the conscious mind, this is where you're aware, this is your conscious mind, this is your realized reality, this is what you say. But guess what? In the subconscious, in your programming, your unrealized reality, this is responsible for what you do. Now, can I throw something out there, okay? This is one of the main reasons why so many of God's people are like, oh yes, brother, I believe we're supposed to be blessed and highly favored and blessed of the Lord. The head and not the tail, and the lender and not the borrower. I don't know why my voice is sounding like the Monopoly man or something. I don't know who sounds like that, but the punchline is this. They say that, but how do they live? Like, what do their actions actually say about what they consciously think they believe, but subconsciously, what do they actually believe? I don't know. Let's look at their actions. It's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I believe God wants us to be blessed, but you're still out here struggle bussing. You're still out here. You can't take care of anybody but you and yours. You're still out here in terrible consumer debt. I believe God wants us to be blessed. You don't live like you believe it because obviously your subconscious mind is still running on this bad programming, right? So what do you need to do in order to change that? Well, guess what you need to do? You need to develop your mindsets. Guys, I'm telling you this, when it comes to your business, when it comes to getting your business established, you have got to train your mindsets with an S, okay? Here's why. Think about this. Our whole entire life, every single one of us, however you were raised, we were raised under a certain programming in our brain. Guys, this is why it's so hard for so many people to find success, okay? And especially, and I'm not knocking this group, it just is what it is. I've seen it in my own personal experience, especially people who go through the traditional cultural hypnotic societal mechanism, right? Go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, work 9 to 5 your whole entire life, be an employee, pay the highest taxes out of anyone in the nation, which are employees, work extremely hard for 40 or 50 years, and then maybe, hopefully one day, if you've been a good boy, if you've been a good girl, you might be able to retire, right? Like, I have someone very, very close to me who a number of years ago, we handed them the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, because they're like, how are you guys doing this? This is so crazy. Like, you guys are like millionaires now. This is so insane. Like, how are you? And we're like, yo, it starts in the mindsets. Like, mindsets, we're like, here, read this book. Like, this is how it started for us like 10, 11 years ago. Read this book. And we gave them the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book by Robert Kiyosaki. And they read it, and a week later they came to us and they were so discouraged. They're like, oh man. We're like, what? What's going on? They're like, we're too far gone. And I said, what? What do you mean you're too far gone? They're like, we've been programmed. Like, this whole entire thing, go to school, go to college, get a degree, like, that's me, that's us, that's our family. And honestly, we're so ingrained, we're so entrenched in, I don't know if we can break out. And unfortunately, they're still in that. They still haven't broken out, right? Because they have just decided, well, we're too far gone in this old system and it just is what it is. And we're probably just going to struggle, right? I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. You need to develop your mindsets. How are you going to do this, okay? Real quick, just to reiterate something here, okay? So your subconscious mind is your programming. How does your subconscious mind get programmed? It gets programmed by your conscious mind. So this is why you need to be very, very guarded, very, very careful with the thoughts that you think around money, with the conversations that you have around money, finance, business. Okay, if you're like, oh man, these people are they're filthy rich, right? Why are you saying filthy rich, right? This is what culture tells us to call them. They're filthy rich. Oh, they're not filthy rich. If they made their money ethically and morally, they're clean rich, right? Like, they're just rich, right? But this whole entire idea, like, oh man, gas is so expensive, bro. Oh my gosh, have you seen the price of eggs? Like, I had somebody close to me recently. They were talking, and they're not entrepreneurs, and they were like, oh my gosh, the price of chicken has doubled. And I was like, price of chicken? What do you mean it's doubled? They're like, it's $11 a pound now or something like that. I was like, is that a lot? I legit have no clue, because I can't remember the last time I checked the price of my groceries. I legit can't remember, because I'm not worried about the cost of something. I'm not trying to save my way to wealth. I'm not trying to like save a penny here, save a penny there to hopefully one day get wealthy. I would rather focus on, instead of like trying to focus on the bottom line, how can we save our way to wealth? I want to focus on the top line. How can I serve more people and increase my income? Because guys, people don't have a cost problem. They have an income problem. Like, if you have enough income, who cares how much the thing costs? So legit, I can't remember last time I looked at groceries. Like, how much is it? I was like, $11 for chicken. Is that a lot? They're like, that's that's enormous. Like, oh my gosh. I was like, I had no clue. I legit had no clue. I can't remember the last time I looked to see the price of gas, the price of eggs, the price of groceries, because I'm not looking at the things that are going to try to program my mind into scarcity. I'm only listening, and I'm only saying, and I'm only guarding my thoughts. I'm only allowing speech to come out of my mouth that is abundant, that is more than enough, that is program me to think nothing is too expensive, because I have God living on the inside of me, and my God-given potential literally can be bigger than any of these problems. Like, here's a crazy story for you, okay? You want to talk about developing your mindsets? Okay, here's something really fun. So me and my wife recently, we decided to, I think by the time this video is out, they won't know. So me and my wife are going to be surprising my kids with a trip to Disney. We're going for, I think, 3 days or 4 days, and we're blowing it out, okay? Coming up very soon, we're gonna go to Disney. We're gonna blow it out, and we're literally doing the best of the best of the best. We're flying, first class. We're staying in suites. We got all the lightning passes. We got the best of the best of the best of the best. And just between you and I, okay, the trip's going to cost roughly about $30K. Okay. Now, what I decided before I even said, okay, we're gonna do this trip, I said, okay, let's do the trip, and I made a game for myself in my mind. How in the world can I pay for this vacation by helping serve somebody else at such a high level that they pay me $30K? And I'll tell you this, Like just earlier today, I literally served somebody and they paid me 30K. It wasn't even in any one of my programs. I was like, woohoo! Like it's perfect because my mindset wasn't like, oh my gosh, $30,000 for 3.5 days at Disney. That's the most, Disney itself's already expensive and how are we gonna pay for it? Like, I'm not thinking of that. I want my mindsets to be programmed to the place of abundance, right? I'm not thinking of like, oh, this is so much, what's it gonna cost? I'm thinking of how can I serve more people and make more income? Because that's how it actually works. Right? So it's absolutely mind-blowing, guys. How do you program your mindsets? Okay, if you want the programming, think about this. If you're always saying, oh, this is so expensive, this is so hard, I'll never be able to, oh man, that's a ripoff. Oh man, that much for whatever, chips? Oh my gosh, $5 for a water. Oh, if you're saying and thinking these thoughts all the time, you're programming yourself to be in scarcity. So why is it so hard to break out of this? Because you now have your subconscious mind always talking back to your conscious mind. Hey, you programmed us to think that $5 for a bottle of water is a lot. So we should try to go like down the street and find one that's 37 cents cheaper. Like, hey, you programmed us to think that like, you know, this is a ripoff. So maybe we should buy the cheap brand of this. Hey, you programmed us. Your subconscious mind is doing its best to protect you. But really what you're doing is you're hurting yourself because you haven't developed your mindsets. This is why you need to stop having broke conversations. Can I just have like 15 people right now in the comments drop these words? Stop having broke conversations. Like just drop it in the comments. Stop having broke conversations. Stop entertaining broke thoughts. Okay, stop it. Because all those broke conversations, all those broke thoughts do is try to get your programming to go backwards. Okay? Why was it so easy for me to like, I'm gonna serve somebody and make 30K and take my family on a vacation for 30K? Like, why? Because my mind was programmed. I wasn't like worried. Like this can happen for you too, guys. It literally can happen for you too. Like you can program your mindsets, okay? So don't just say, oh, I think I believe it. You have to get your conscious mind in lock with the words, the content you listen to, the conversations you have enough to where it finally programs your subconscious mind. So that way you're not operating in this scarcity or in this lack, but your actions actually show I am operating in abundance, guys. That's the second thing you need to do is you need to develop your mindsets, okay? What's the third thing you need to do? If you're ready for number 3, drop a 3 in the comments. Okay, I'm gonna wrap with this one. Okay, the third thing you need to do is if you want to build and scale your business to the most ultimate level ever, and you are like working on these things, I gotta get my courage right, I gotta get my mindsets right. Well, the third thing you've got to do, guys, you've got to, if you've made it this far into the training and you're enjoying it and you still haven't checked out my upcoming 5-day live virtual challenge, Create and Sell Digital Products, what is you doing? Check out this testimony right here of one of my current students. He took the information that I'm gonna be sharing with you in the upcoming 5-day training to make $15,000 in one single week. Click the link down below, join as a VIP. We'll see you in the challenge. Now, back to the training. You've got to learn how to deploy massive value. Okay, so just a recap, okay? Number 1, discover your courage. Number 2, develop your mindsets. Okay? And then number 3, deploy massive value. If you're taking notes, write this down. You must obsess over solving your market's problem more than they obsess over the problem itself. I'll say that one more time. You must obsess over solving your market's problem more than they obsess over over the problem itself. Okay? So guys, now that you have discovered your courage, now that you've developed your mindsets, what's there left to do? You need to deploy massive value. Deploy massive value. One of my mentors, I've loved him for years. His name is Rabbi Daniel Lapin, okay? And he is a Jewish businessman, absolutely amazing. I recommend some of his books and some of his content. Business Secrets from the Bible, I love that one. The 10 Commandments of, what is it called? The 10 Commandments. Basically, he has another book on the 10 Commandments of wealth or something like that, I forget. But they're both fantastic, okay? And one thing that I've learned from Rabbi Lapin is that in the Jewish culture, the Jewish mindset, they are so obsessed with exchanging value that they are like, how can I just outvalue everybody else? Like, if I want to be very, very, very wealthy, how can I just provide insane amounts of value? In fact, this really unlocked for me. I've heard Rabbi Lapin talk about it many times, but I tell the story sometimes. I was in Israel a number of years ago, and we were up on a rooftop having Shabbat dinner. It's absolutely beautiful. And I had the opportunity and the privilege to sit next to a billionaire who's become a friend. And I said, man, while we're having dinner, I said, hey, can I ask you a question? Why in the world are Jews, you know, traditionally just so wealthy? Now, obviously not every single Jew in the world is, you know, hugely rich, right? But most Jews are pretty wealthy. And obviously I know God made a covenant, but why would you think, like, are there natural reasons for that too? And without skipping a beat, he says, brother, I always try to do my Jewish accent. He goes, brother, it's because we are obsessed with value exchange. Like, little hand clap for the Jewish accent there. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Chrissy. Thou shalt prosper. That was the name of it. Thou shalt prosper, the 10 Commandments of making money. Yep. Daniel Lapin's book that I was talking about earlier, okay? But here's the thing. This guy who's a Jewish billionaire says we are obsessed with value exchange. And then he went on to tell me this. One of the reasons why Jews are so wealthy is because they're not focused on trying to make the money. That's part of it. That's a natural byproduct of business, duh. But instead of focusing on chasing the money, Jews, and in their culture, they are focused on how much value can I bring to people's lives? Because the more value you can bring, the more money you can make. It's just how it works. So if you're like new to entrepreneurship or you're trying to build your business and you're like, why isn't this working? Okay, you've got to do these three things. You got to discover your courage, develop your mindsets. Then you have to learn how to deploy massive value. Here's something that you really need to consider, okay? If you are not making the kind of money that you desire to make right now, it's simply because you have not deployed the level of value that it takes in order for you to make the kind of money that you desire to make. Like, it's literally that simple. And you could be like, well, I put value out there every day and I'm still struggling. Like, no. Listen what I'm saying, okay? I'm not saying your soul is not valuable. I'm not saying that you as a person, you're not putting out value. You probably are. And yes, as a soul, you are extremely precious. But what I'm saying is the skill sets that you have, okay? The way that you can help people, if you desire to have more money, all you have to do is help more people. And then if you want to make more money, help people with more expensive problems. And if you want to make a ton of money, then start helping people who are wealthy, who have wealthy people problems. Like, it's literally that. It's literally that, right? When you begin to discover how to deploy massive value, everything for you will change, okay? So guys, discover your courage. Number one, discover your courage. You got to get your courage going, man. Right? You're not a grasshopper, you're a giant slayer. What am I doing here? Discover your courage, be a giant slayer. Number two, develop your mindsets, not just your conscious, but your subconscious, because it's not just about what you say, it's more so about what you do. It's your programming. And number three, you've got to learn how to deploy massive value. Let me just leave you with this thought when it comes to deploying massive value, okay? Why in the world is the company Apple, why are they so wealthy? Like, they're worth over $3 trillion because they literally, most people on this planet now, even overseas, have one of Apple's devices in their house, in their pocket. Many of us have multiple Apple devices. Think about how much value they have put into the planet, and therefore they have received a bunch of value in the form of dollar signs in return. The same thing goes for Amazon, right? Like, every single one of us, probably multiple times a week, we have Amazon packages on our front doors. Like, think about it. Amazon is bringing tremendous value to everybody's life. And guess what? They are receiving tremendous value back in the form of $. Guys, get your courage up, get your mindsets set, deploy massive value. If you do these 3 things, you are never going to have to struggle in your business ever again.